So, what happened, in contrast to the rural serendipity, the other side of progress revealed much human misery. The problems that progress created, the problems introduced by the rise of urban centers, by the rise of industry, led many people to question their surroundings. With more and more crowding came anonymity. And to be anonymous means to be nobody, a loser, nothing. So because of poor urban planning, no attention was paid to sanitation, which made the potential for epidemic disease frightening. And with industrialization came cheap labor. And recent immigrants, largely German Jews and Irish Catholics, encountered problems of acculturation. So as progress expanded, so did immigration. Now the older generations, the children of immigrants themselves from a previous era, began to question, especially in the Northeast, this new wave of immigrants that came in, and they started to question their linguistic, cultural, and religious affiliations. The newcomers, they're coming in between 1840 to 1860, are speaking a different language. The newcomers are dressed in curious clothing. The newcomers pray in an unlike fashion. So immigrants were dissimilar, and they became associated with the problems of the other side of progress. And so, immigrants to the U.S.-born populations are ruining the fiber and the backbone of the system. Immigrants are going to be blamed for urban crime. Immigrants are going to be blamed for alcohol abuses. They're going to be blamed for political corruption. They're going to be blamed for undercutting of wages. This part of the American character is identified as nativism. So Samantha, pay attention. Nativism. This nativism begins in this era, the 1840s. Let's put that up on the bottom thirds. Nativism. It enters in the 1840s. It is not the 20th century. Everyone who claims to be an American since that time, since the 1840s, and up until today, the 21st century, develops this disease, this nativism. You develop it, it's some aspect of the nativist character is in you if you claim to be an American. Because as an American, you have learned the prejudices of everything, and especially with regards to immigration, you've learned that term alien, and it's always associated with sedition. And so let's talk about nativism. Let me repeat this again. Everyone who claims to be an American, even you students, you who claim to be an American, since the 1840s and up until today, you've developed nativism. Americans have developed this. Is very, very important. You have some aspect of this nativist character in you. It's just something that's learned. It's something that's part of the educational system. It's something that's part of the history of the United States. I don't care what kind of bean you are, whether you're a white bean or a black bean or red bean, yellow bean, whatever. All these beans have developed the prejudice, have accepted the prejudices of the dominant capitalist class. Okay? Again, I don't like canned green beans, but nonetheless, all of these beans, no matter what your race, no matter what your color, no matter what your creed, no matter what your gender, if you call yourself an American, I know you have nativist tendencies. If it is in your blood to be prejudiced against the immigrant population, especially the recent immigrant, that's the American way. Nativism in America is like diarrhea being inherited. It runs in your genes. You see, Americans always want to blame somebody for their problems because Americans have a lot of problems. And so Americans think that they are Egyptians because they live on Denial River. So in the 1850s, anti-immigrant mobilization appeared in the guise of a political party. The American or Know Nothing Party, their agenda was a concern about immigrants, particularly about the cultural differences, particularly about the political differences. And what they did was they called themselves the Know Nothings. I know nothing. And perceived they did not like the immigrants coming in. Now, one of their demands was for an extension of the period prior to naturalization from 5 years to 21 years. And we can see this nativist character in the debates over what to do with immigrants today. The party in the American Party, or the Know Nothing Party, reached its peak in the 1856 election. All right? But what happened was, back then, it never influenced national immigration policy. So you can see the whole notion of, here are these immigrants. They speak a different language. They have a different religion. They have different cultural aspects. But it only happened in the Northeast, in the cities, where the immigrants are being used to work in the factory system of production. Capitalist American immigration policy is bringing them in by the thousands. And so Americans who are here, they're looking at them and they're going, what are you doing here? You're taking our jobs. You're doing what are the arguments? Well, those arguments were formulated in the 1840s. And so the American or Know Nothing Party reached its peak in 1856, but it never influenced national immigration policy. Why? Because its decline came at the onset of the Civil War. Because the Civil War is going to reshape U.S. politics. It's going to reshape the party system. See, concern over immigration policy in the 1850s was lost in a larger controversy over what to do with the involuntary immigrant. You see, these are the voluntary immigrants. They're not liking the voluntary immigrants. But what about the involuntary immigrant, the slave? Let's appreciate the nature of the immigrant struggle against nativism by watching a film clip from a movie that sensationally captures the hate towards the other that Americans are professional at. Let's go into that film clip, The Gangs of New York.